Sovereign of the Seas was a 17th-century warship of the English Navy. She was ordered as a 90-gun first-rate ship of the line of the English Royal Navy, but at launch was armed with 102 bronze guns at the insistence of the king. She was later renamed Sovereign, and then Royal Sovereign. The ship was launched on 13 October 1637 and served from 1638 until 1697, when a fire burned the ship to the waterline at Chatham. History. Sovereign of the Seas was ordered in August 1634 on the personal initiative of Charles I of England, who desired a giant great ship to be built. The decision provoked much opposition from the Brethren of Trinity House, who pointed out that there is no port in the kingdom that can harbour this ship. The wild sea must be her port, is her anchors and cables her safety. If either fail, the ship must perish, the king lose his jewel. 400 or 500 men must die, and perhaps some great and noble peer. But the king overcame the objections with the help of John Pennington, and from May 1635 she was built by Peter Pett, under the guidance of his father Phineas, the king's master shipwright, and was launched at Woolwich Dockyard on the 13th of October 1637. As the second three-decked first-rate, she was the predecessor of Nelson's Victory. Although Revenge, built in 1577 by Matthew Baker, was the inspiration providing the innovation of a single deck devoted entirely to broadside guns. She was the most extravagantly decorated warship in the Royal Navy, completely adorned from stern to bow with gilded carvings against a black background, made by John Christmas and Matthias Christmas after a design by Anthony van Dyck. The money spent making her £65,586 helped to create the financial crisis for Charles I that contributed to the English Civil War. Charles had imposed a special tax, the ship money, to make possible such large naval expenditure. The gilding alone cost £6,691, which in those days was the price of an average warship. She carried 102 bronze cannon and was thereby at the time the most powerfully armed ship in the world. The cannon were made by John Brown. Sovereign of the Seas had 118 gun ports and only 102 guns. The shape of the bow meant that the foremost gun ports on the lower gun deck were blocked by the anchor cable. Consequently, the forechase, the guns facing forward, occupied the next ports. There were 2 demi-cannon drakes. One port is one starboard, some 11.5 feet long, weighing together 5 tons. They had a bore of 6.4 to 6.75 inches and fired a shot weighing 32 to 36 pounds, using around 10 pounds of gunpowder. In the third ports from the bow, there were 2 11-foot demi-cannon drakes weighing together 4.3 tons. Behind them were 20 cannon drakes, 9 feet long, and weighing in all 45.7 tons. In the third port from the stern were 2 more 11-foot demi-cannon drakes weighing together 4.3 tons. The last 2 ports on either side were occupied by the stern chase, 4 10.5-FOOT demi-cannon drakes weighing a total of 11.4 tons. The middle gun deck had heavy fortified culverins, that is, guns short for the bore, fore and aft. There were 2 11.5-FOOT pieces weighing 4.8 tons in the forechase, 4 11.5-FOOT pieces weighing 10.2 tons in the stern chase. Immediately behind the forechase were 2 demi-culverin drakes, 8 to 9 feet long, weighing some 1.9 tons. Then came 22 9.5-FOOT culverin drakes weighing a total of 30.4 tons. On On the upper gun deck there were two 10-foot fortified demi-culverins in the forechase and two in the stern chase, both pairs weighing 2.8 tons. Between them there were 22 demi-culverin drakes, 8 to 9 feet long, weighing over 21 tons in total. There were 8 to 9 foot demi-culverin drakes weighing 7.7 tons in the forecastle, another 6 weighing 5.7 tons on the half deck. The quarter-deck carried two 6-foot demi-culverin drake cuts, a cut, again, being a shorter version of a gun, weighing 1,600 weight. Then there were another two 6-foot culverin cuts, weighing 1.3 tons, after the forecastle bulkhead. In all, Sovereign of the Seas carried 155.9 tons of guns, and that did not include the weight of the gun carriages. Altogether they cost £26,441 13/6d, including £3 per piece to have the Tudor rose, a crown and the motto, Carol's Edgari Sceptrvm Akvarum. Charles has established Edgar's Sceptre of the Waters engraved on them. The gun carriages, made by Matthew Banks, master carpenter for the Office of Ordnance, cost another £558 11/8d. By 1642, her armament had been reduced to 90 guns. Until 1655, she was also exceptionally large for an English vessel. No other ships of Charles were larger than Prince Royal. Sovereign of the Seas was not so much built because of tactical considerations, but as a deliberate attempt to bolster the reputation of the English crown. Her name was, in itself, a political statement, as Charles tried to revive the perceived ancient right of the English kings to be recognized as the lords of the seas. English ships demanded that other ships strike the flags in salute, even in foreign ports. The Dutch legal thinker Hugo Grotius had argued for a mare liberum, a sea free to be used by all. Such a concept was mainly favorable to Dutch trade. In reaction, John Selden and William Monson published the book Mare Clausum in 1635, with special permission of Charles, which attempted to prove that King Edgar had already been recognized as Rex Marium, or Sovereign of the Seas. This book had been previously repressed by James I. The name of the ship explicitly referred to this dispute. King Edgar was the central theme of the transom carvings. Rear Admiral Sir William Simmons noted that after the ship's launch she was cut down and made a safe and fast ship. In the time of the Commonwealth of England, all ships named after royalty were renamed. It was first decided to change the name of the ship into Commonwealth, but in 1650 it became a simple Sovereign. In 1651 she was again made more maneuverable by reducing upper works, after which she was described as a delicate frigate. She served throughout the wars of the Commonwealth and became the flagship of General-at-Sea Robert Blake. She was involved in all of the great English naval conflicts fought against the United Provinces and France, and was referred to as the Golden Devil by the Dutch, when, during the First Anglo-Dutch War, on the 21st of October 1652, the States General of the Netherlands in a secret session determined the reward money for the crews of fire ships that succeeded in destroying an enemy vessel. Sovereign was singled out. An extra prize of 3,000 guilders was promised, in case they should ruin the ship named the Sovereign. The ship had not seen action during the Civil War, remaining laid up. After being refitted in 1651, she had her first fight in the Battle of the Kentish Knock, armed with 106 guns. In this battle she ran aground on the Kentish Knock itself. Although repeatedly occupied by the Dutch in the fiercest of engagements, Sovereign was retaken every time and remained in service for nearly 60 years as the best ship in the English fleet. By 1660 her armament had been changed to 100 guns. After the English Restoration she was rebuilt at Chatham in 1660 as a first-rate ship of the line of 100 guns, with flatter gun decks and renamed Royal Sovereign. Most of the carvings had been removed. She was smaller than Naseby, but she was in regular service during the 3 Anglo-Dutch wars, surviving the raid on the Medway in 1667 by being at Portsmouth at the time. She underwent a second rebuild in 1685 at Chatham Dockyard, relaunching as a first rate of 100 guns, before taking part in the outset of the War of the Grand Alliance against Louis XIV of France. For the first time she ventured into the Irish Sea, and later participated in the Battle of Beachy Head and the Battle of La Hougue, when she was more than 50 years old. In that period she was the first ship in history that flew royals above her topgallant sails and a topgallant sail on the jiggermast. Sovereign became leaky and defective with age during the reign of William III, and was laid up at Chatham, ignominiously ending her days, on the 27th of January 1697, by being burnt to the waterline as a result of having been set on fire either by accident, negligence or design. Some part of the popular folklore attributes the fire to an overturned candle. In her honor, naval tradition has kept the name of this ship afloat, and several subsequent ships have been named HMS Royal Sovereign. A painting from this ship survives on the ceiling of Commissioner's House, Chatham Dockyard, over the grand staircase. It depicts an assembly of the gods and depicts Mars being crowned by Neptune, surrounded by the goddesses Hope, Peace, Justice and Plenty. The painting is surrounded by a gilded frieze depicting sea creatures. It is attributed to James Thornhill, sergeant painter. He painted the ceilings of the Royal Hospital Greenwich and the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral.